Redenford fire ants. Yes, I worked at the Breckenridge Field Laboratories for 4 years as a postdoc, where we studied a natural enemy of the Redenford fire ant in order to try to beat them back a little bit. First, I'll do some background. Here. No. Okay, never mind. So first off, something I want to get straight in everyone's mind. People say, "Oh, I got a fire ant bite." No, you did not get. Well, you may have gotten a bite, but the bite is not the problem. The bite is just how they get a grip on you, so that they can really sting you. The sting is what hurts and gives you the pustule and so forth. Okay, so if you have something from a fire ant, do not say it's a fire ant bite, please. It's a fire ant sting. And it's just so you know, it's a necrotic alkaloid in there. So it actually kind of kills the flesh there. That's why it's
Claire,
such a strong reaction.
I'm really sorry to do this, but I want to interrupt you for a second, or few. Eric, who's provided the clicker, wants to know who plans to go to the pizza party, so that he's going to go down and set it up and get things ordered. Anybody planning on going? Okay, so now you've got an idea. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Right. And also, the reaction to fire ant sting varies tremendously from person to person. For some people, it's just positively excruciating, and for some folks, it doesn't hurt in the least. When I first got here, it didn't hurt me at all. They had to have me stung in the lab so that they could see if I was anaphylactically allergic, because if you're anaphylactically allergic, you cannot work in the lab. And they put the fire ant on me, and I didn't feel anything. And so they moved it, and it stung me someplace, and I didn't feel anything. And now, since I've been stung so many times, because I'm oblivious to it, when I stand in the nest, I can get bunches of stings and not even know it. It feels kind of like something's annoyingly poking me a little bit, and so now I at least know I'm being stung. All right. So they are distributed normally, naturally, in South America, and it's believed that they evolved in an area called the Pantanal in Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay, mostly in Brazil, though. And if you ever travel to South America, try to get to the Pantanal. It is amazing. It is positively amazing.
If you're there, go see Iguazu.
Yes, there's so much good stuff to see. I mean, so there's lots of interesting things about the Pantanal, but one of the things that is important when you talk about fire ants is that it floods annually. It looks like this part of the year, and then it looks like that for part of the year. That's a pretty extreme environment to evolve in. And fire ants have found lots of neato ways to, how am I going to make this?
You have to use the touchpad.
There we
go.
Let's see if it works. So one of the ways that they've adapted to this flooding, it might take a little bit, I'm sorry, is to do what's called rafting. And this is a video that somebody took.
You want it bigger?
Sure. It usually says So when flooding occurs, they get out of the nest and they cling together, and they have the quality of water repellent on their integument, and so they float. And if you get on, I think the next video, this is a huge problem. Does anybody fish? Yeah, it's wiped out trout and other things because they see this fabulous food source and they eat it, and that's the end of it. Let's see, I want to go. There was another video that was really cool. They can actually form little highways on top of the water. from place to place and walk across each other, the water to them is just another way of getting around it.
So they weren't like on a cup or some kind of floating debris there?
I'm sorry, what?
They weren't like on some kind of floating flotsam. They were floating.
They just floated in the ball. Yeah.
And the ones on the bottom don't drown?
Nope. Yeah, they have this little tiny air seal around all of them, and the ones at the bottom, there's plenty of air that you get through all of their legs. So, yeah, it's kind of wild. Is that it? Oh, that's it. No, that's not it. Never mind. Okay, so back to where we were. So that's one neato adaptation that they have. And when they came here, we don't have an annual flooding. Whoop-de-doo! We can go anywhere we want all year long. And that's part of why they spread so much. And the other thing that they have is that their nest structure is fantastic. This is from Walter Schinkel. He pours lead into fire ant nests and then excavates it bit by bit, and you can see the structure of the nest. And different species of ant have tremendously different structures. It's fascinating. It's all he studies.
Did he do that one in Africa, that giant one that they show here often?
No, he didn't do that one.
Huge.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. He's done others that are similarly large. Right. But, so, if this is a meter long, and if you have tremendous temperature variation at the surface, it doesn't matter. If it's too hot, too cold, go down deep. That's why they can do so well here again. They have the ability to go and temperature regulate. Whoops, back. Yeah. No.
I left her on the.
There. All right. And the other thing they have, they have in South America are natural enemies. And one of the things, of course, is the anteater. No, we can't import it. They are really super deadly. They kill people. These are not cute, fuzzy animals. And they do eat fire ants. You think, how the hell do they eat fire ants? They do. They just have to stop after a while because it begins to hurt.
How does an anteater kill a person?
They have. I'll show you. It's really amazing. Look at this skeleton.
Oh,
They have huge claws.
They gut people.
They will gut you. It happens. One of them killed a zookeeper in the U.S. Crazy. And you will see signs like this around, which I just love. And if you have a moment to just surf the web, look up anteaters. Anteaters are fascinating, bizarre animals if you look at their morphology and everything. Of course, you can look at their skull, and there's some weird stuff going on there. I won't go into details. But they sleep with their tail over them like a blanket. So nice. So, they got to the United States in about the 1930s. Ed Wilson, who is a very, very famous ant person, you may have heard of him, he actually claims to be the first person to have noticed that they were in the United States, and he was 11 when he saw it, or something, 11 or 13. And I don't know if that inspired him to become a an ant expert, but he did seem to be the first one to see it. Probably, the old story used to be that if they were imported from Brazil, we would get spices from Brazil, and we would send down to Brazil live oak tree wood for shipbuilding. Wood is a lot heavier than spices, so when they would ship the spice up north, they would weight the soil from the ground, and that's the story. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work because they've done the genetics on all the fire ants that are in the United States, and they appear to be from Argentina and not Brazil. But somehow they did get here, and almost definitely by boat as ballast. So the other thing that they have that I'm going to talk to you about today that keeps them beaten back in South America, but not here, is they have lots and lots of natural enemies in addition to big things like the mammal anteater. One of the most important ones are forward flies. And here's the life cycle of a forward fly. There's the adult, and that happens to be a female. They attack the fire ants. They lay an egg in the fire ant's body. It hatches. It goes into the head, consumes what's left of the ant. Of course, the ant dies. It's also called a decapitating ant. And it's difficult to see, but you can see where the mouth has fallen apart, the mandibles have fallen off. The pupa's head is right there in the mouth parts. And then he closes, it comes out, and the wings harden, and off it goes to do its thing. Now you might think, okay, they're killing fire ants, right? That's the main effect. It's not at all what's important. If you have bazillions and bazillions of ants and a few of these flies, what possible impact could it have on their population? It's not direct the way it has an effect. It's indirect. And I'll talk about that. One of the things that's really cool about these, and I wish I had more pictures, is the ovipositor, the egg-laying apparatus of the females. They're pretty wicked, and they come in all sorts of shapes. I wish I had more. You can see this one is called tricuspis, and you can guess why that one is Pseudactian tricuspis, right? It's got 3 cusps on its ovipositor. Some of the ovipositors look like Halloween masks, and some look like little scoops, some look like pointy. They're just all sorts of shapes, yes.
These are the phorid flies you're talking
Phorid
about.
flies.
Phorid?
Phorid. P-H-O-R-I-D.
And they're about as big as the head of a pin, too.
I have some to pass around. I need these back at the end. You can get an idea of how small they are. This photograph was taken by John Abbott he used to be at the University of Texas. And capturing this sort of images is extraordinarily difficult. He hypothesized and found some evidence that the iridescence in the wings is actually a mating signal for flies. It's not just there. It really serves a purpose.
Right there. That's the fly.
So how the fly does this is really fantastic. I'll show you some video in a little bit. They fly next to the ant and they hit it so quickly you have a hard time believing that anything has happened, but they lay an egg in that split second. And the ant reacts. You see the ants are standing on stilty legs and they're all upset. I'll show you more about this. There it is. In order to raise flies, you have to have fire ants in the lab. And you can't have lots of soil, you have to have them out of the soil. And how do you do that? Well, we go out, dig up fire ant nests, which is, I'll give you some advice. If you're out in the garden and you don't want to get stung, wear garden boots with baby powder on. They can't get a purchase on. And if you want to keep your hands safe, rubber gloves with baby powder on. They can't get a purchase on it. So you dig up the dirt, throw it in a bucket, set the bucket underneath a slow drip. And as that drip fills the bucket, the fire ants grab the brood and everybody they can, and they slowly go up until they float at the top, taking advantage of their biology. And then you scoop them out with a scoop and dump them into a container, like those over there. And after the talk, you can come look at my containers at fire ants.
So what about the stuff you use to keep them in the fans?
Oh, we train. Electroshock. Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah.
There is a substance on the side that's kind of like Teflon. We have to put it on there. It's called fluon. And if you come up here, I'll warn you again when you come up here, do not touch that fluon. It will permanently stain your clothing. You will not get it out, period. I ruined more pairs of clothing in a little bit. The other thing is it's highly carcinogenic. So you kind of avoid it. So they can't get a purchase on the fluon and then they're stuck in there. And once you have them out of the soil, you Keep them in a formicary like this one, lots and lots of trays, and yes, it smells really funky. Fire ants have their own particular odor. Every kind of insect, if you have a whole bunch of them concentrated, they have their own particular odor. I'm not making that up. Okay. I may have to come back to this stuff because I need to talk about something else first. Oh, come on. Oh. Something didn't get saved, but I can talk about it anyway. So if you have a single species of forward fly, that's kind of okay, that's not very much. If you look at the forward flies that are out in the field, there are at least 30 different species that attack fire ants. Why? Why would that speciation occur? Well, it turns out, if you look at fire ants, they come in all sorts of sizes. And so you can have different sizes of flies. Some are very large, like tricuspis that I showed in the slide before, and some are extremely small, which is kind of relative, but very, very, very small. And the other thing and so distributed around those sizes are different species of flies, like littoralis is only the very largest, and tricuspis is around here, and obtusus is down at the bottom, and curvatus is right in the middle. So just that 4 or 5 species right there knocks out some of them. But the other thing that they do that
you have that range in Texas, or that
everywhere, yeah,
you find all of those in the same area. Oh,
right, and the same nest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and even there's even more variation if you look at monogyne versus polygyne nests. Monogyne nest has a single queen. Each individual tends to be larger in monogyne nests. Polygynes, because they're competing with one another, all of the different queens, they're just trying to pump out ants as fast as they can, so they tend to be smaller than that. But the other thing, which is not on here, unfortunately, is that fire ants, all ants, do all sorts of things. They forage, which looks different from taking care of the midden, which is their trash pile, which looks different from protecting the fire ant mound itself, which looks different from when an alate flight occurs and the reproductives go flying up. And there is a fly that specializes in each of those things in different sizes. So there's just all sorts of amazing biology going on here. Oh, and to make it even more complicated, you know, when turtles bury their eggs, the gender is determined by how deep the eggs are because of a temperature gradient in the soil. Did you know that? Most people know that, but it is true. Okay, so with the forward flies, what determines the gender is within a species of forward flies, say you're talking about littoralis, which is the bigger end of things, if the ant that is infected is very large, you're going to get a female fly. If on the smaller end, a male fly. It is determined by how much space they have, which is bizarre. I don't know of any other animal that does that. You? How much space determines what gender you are? Bizarre! I love this stuff. Okay, so then, again, this is a little messed up. I don't know why my things got messed up in the translation, but they did. Crud niblets. It is really... How do I get it to go back? Every time I try to make it go
arrow on the...
You think it was the up one, right? But it's going the wrong... There it goes. Okay. Sorry. So let's try tricuspis up close. Those, the ovipods, or the egg-laying apparatus. And if you look, it looks like this kind of. And I imagine what it does is it slips in between the integument of the thorax and the leg, and like a can opener deposits an egg, and then gets back out pretty quickly. We have, I can't get it to change. Actually introduced this species in a number of places, and it's established. If you go out and find a fire ant nest and bug it, you will find these flies if you wait a little while. They are around and they have an impact. It's pretty cool.
Just nearly got wiped out though. The Nat Geo film I saw was done up on the farm of a friend of mine in Mineral. And because the drought came along and they couldn't survive that drought, they found them in a lady's garden and reestablished it.
Right. They hunt you down just like the fire ants.
That's amazing.
And they still haven't determined where they hang out. they appear out of nowhere. Where do they come from? Are they just everywhere and nobody knows it? Are they in the mound somewhere and then they come out? What the heck's going on there? It's really bizarre. And here's another species called curvatus. Again, the ovipositor, you can see why it's called curvatus. And that is littoralis. It has a slightly different 3 scapula sort of structure, and that one is just bizarre. There's just all sorts of them. Okay, so how do they have an effect on the fire ants if it's not direct? It's indirect. If you are fire ant and you get hit by one of these things, forward fly, they do this bizarre thing. They freeze. And they adopt various strange positions. And they get stuck. And they'll sit like that for a long time. And what's more, other ants that encounter these ants will try to groom them, and then they'll go, oh my goodness, and they freeze too. And depending on species of forward fly, the ants freeze at various times. It is related. For certain species, they only last this long in that position. Other species, some have greater impacts. Strange. The other thing is, depending on species, the number of buddies who come up and get stuck with you varies. For Tripespus, it's about medium in terms of like 8 or 9 other ants get influenced by the one that gets hit. But for obtusus, or one of the other ones, I don't remember, it's been a while, it can be dozens. That can shut down a colony. They stop defending their nest. They stop foraging. They stop taking care of the midden, which means disease can go up. And they stop alate flies. All of those things can have a very strong indirect effect on fire ant mound.
So what's an alate?
Alate is, it's a reproductive fire ant, reproductive ant.
It has wings.
It has wings. Sorry. Nicely done. Okay, so this will give you, there it is. This is Sanford Porter's lab in USDA in Florida. He's an old friend of mine. And we worked together to do some publishing and stuff. I'm still thinking. He and the lab at Brackenridge are the 2 primary labs that have this stuff going. We have colonies going. Let's keep that here. Any questions while we wait for this to load up?
Is it UF Gainesville or where in Florida?
Yeah, Gainesville. Yeah. Stuck?
Is that the only social disruption that the fly causes is the paralyzing of the momentary paralyzing?
Yeah. I forgot to define parasitoid versus parasite.
And I assume that's a chemical, right?
What?
That they exude to paralyze the ants? Oh, I'll be darned.
They recover from it. They start
Eventually. Eventually. It takes them a while. And then they kind of stumble around. And then they start walking.
Does the fly have to actually come in contact with the animal?
Yeah.
Okay, so it could be that it's passing on some chemicals.
Well, I think, I'm not sure, but clearly, but if they are inserting an egg in there, goodness knows what that egg is coated with.
Well, it's not just a psychological trauma.
No. No. PTSD. The forest.
That Nat Geo thing said that just the sheer fact of the fly hovering over the nest seemed to disrupt the continuity of the soil.
That's all it takes. Let me see if I can get this to go.
Just cut the internet signals.
What's wrong? Anybody know? Oh, it's the babies.
Could be this.
We have to see the video. I would like to see the video of them attacking because this is all kind of interesting until you see them attack, and then your jaw's going to be on the floor. It's really bizarre. Okay, so in the meantime, I will go back up to the lab and continue our tour because oh, it's not going to work. Cuss. Yeah. Okay, so in the lab, in order to get, since the fire ants freeze, if you have fire ants being attacked, they're going to stop moving, and then the flies have nothing to attack. So we take advantage of the fact that the fire ants will forever defend their brood. You have two covers, and one is up and one is down. You put some ants in there with brood, and they are going to put everybody into the covered one. And then after a little while, a toggle switch goes, and they're exposed. And they all go over here, and they go over here. And while they're going back and forth endlessly for about 36 hours, they're getting hit continuously. And it gets almost all of them infected with a foreign fly.
How do they get at them in a mountain? Because you generally, because I go walk in a place where there's a lot of fire, and you generally don't see them crawling around on the top of the mountain that's disturbed.
Yeah. So if you disturb a mound, you'll see them then, and there are many species that attack there. If you hot dog. If you watch them forage on the ground, that's the only time you'll see them up without being upset. And there are other species that attack that trailing behavior. And then the midden, which is always being maintained, they take stuff outside and put it in the trash and come back. And then the aliens.
Are they carnivores or omnivores?
Omnivores, they'll eat everything.
Grass and
beehole and whatever.
When the other fire ants are immobilized on contact with the affected one, do the flies use that as an opportunity to speak?
Yes. Yes. It's really to the fly.
How many eggs can a fly lay? I mean, like multitude?
A couple hundred. Yeah.
So the eggs you're developing in the ants, what do adult flies eat?
Nothing. They don't live very long. If you give them sugar water, they might go to it, but they really don't eat anything. They eat everything as pupae. Something that's interesting about the egg is that there is only genetic material. There is zero yolk or anything else in there. They get everything they need from the fire ant. So that helps the eggs be super small.
How long do they live?
With which?
The fly.
The fly. The adult fly, just a few days, not long. So that means when you import them from South America, it's a red, crazy thing. It takes a lot of money, a lot of paperwork, like Steve talked about. And when they came, I had to do behavioral studies on them because I wanted to determine which board fly we should pursue, which one has the greatest effect on the ants. And there was, I don't know why, some chemical or another that I was using that had mercury in it. And I spilled a little bit on my shoe. And I said, oh, damn, whatever. And there was somebody in the lab who said, oh, do you think we should call hazmat about that? And I said, no, I don't think so. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure? Okay, just call hazmat. Get out of my hair because the flies were coming and I was losing my mind. The flies were, people, it's like a CIA operative sort of thing. When the plane lands, you know. When they get in the car, you know. When they do everything, you know, because you have to be ready and set to go. The flies are so precious.
My Kindle gets it, but these two computers do not get it. So,
outstanding.
Try again.
Yeah.
So they called hazmat, and before I knew it, there were 5 fire trucks at Brackenridge Field Lab.
Oh no. How embarrassing.
Oh my God. Oh, it gets better. And EMT folk. And EMT. Oh my God. So they said, ma'am, you must stop what you're doing. They have a shower in there. You must shower. We must burn all of your clothing. We must blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but the flies are here because they had just arrived. And, so they made me shower for 15 minutes. They hadn't touched my body. And then I looked it up later. Here's the punchline. It doesn't go through the skin, this particular chemical I was using. You'd have to eat it in order to have any effect. And I hadn't eaten it.
Back on.
Okay, so I'll finish the story.
So there's the tour one.
Thank you. So I'm standing, a friend in the lab happened to have a change of clothing. They took my clothing with all of my ID, my credit cards, everything in it, burned it all. And they make me stand on a towel outdoors with nobody touching me with this other person's clothing on, and I'm standing there, I'm so goddamn pissed. I'm like, and the girl who called was looking at me like, I want to kill you. And I'm furious. And one of the EMTs says to another, a male EMT says to a female EMT, I wonder if her behavior is part of the effects of this chemical. And the woman she's mad. And my boss walks through, I'm like, oh God, Larry, I'm so sorry. Like, don't worry about it. It's like, sue bill. And so I never got to touch that batch of flies. My technicians did all the work on that one. That was my little adventure.
If they survive, or you have to keep re-importing them?
You re-import them, but what we're trying to do here in the lab is get our own cultures started and established and sustaining. And we do have several, we have 4 species, I think, that they're sustaining in the lab.
But I mean, how do you catch them to move them to a new colony of ants if you can't hardly see them? They don't know where to go.
I'm hoping this video that I'm going to hopefully show you. How do I get back to my blog? Because I need to go. I'm just.
Down the bottom.
Where?
PowerPoint down the bottom to the P.
Thank you. You can see I am not a big computer.
There you go.
I need to get to Sanford's thing because Sanford. This video shows just about everything that's. There you go.
Oh, it is slow.
Yes, it's a little slow. Alrighty. Was it because if I picked a smaller file, Alright. Well, let me see on that. Right there. Let's see if I can find a shorter video. Maybe that will help. Oh, no. Maybe if we go around this way, maybe it'll work. Shut this one down. Add more. Please. Yes. This is the fly attacking. It's kind of mayhem. You see the ants have their mandibles open, they're running around, they're really pissed off, and as soon as one of them gets actually hit, look, they're even thinking about biting each other, they're so pissed off. Oh, I'm gonna break my buddy, I'm so mad. And then, come on, show one get hit. Pow! And they're stuck, frozen. And that one didn't get to stay frozen for very long. Pow! Pow! The force that they hit is just amazing.
So they lay their eggs in that short amount of time?
Uh-huh. Bam.
Wow.
It's hard to imagine, but it's actually, here we go. Here. Boom!
What's happening to that shot?
Right? I know. Yeah. And then they, help me. And if they get a hold on it, they will kill it. Narf.
It's getting its revenge.
Revenge. So sweet. That's an expensive fly right there. Oh my gosh, the money we spent to get flies in here. It's crazy. But
what's going on there? That was weird.
love him. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry I can't show you. If you go home and
Try the link one more time,
one more time.
just for persistence sake.
Think.
Yay!
Yeah. I held my mouth right. All right, we need it. Yeah.
Commercial there.
Let's get that. And where do I get sound? Because you're gonna.
Oh, sound. Sound is turned off. The sound, yeah.
Uh-oh, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, the sound is off. Well, it was off. It has to go through the projector.
It's okay.
Oh, well. So pretend that you're hearing something.
Yeah, right. It's, the pictures are really what I'm after anyway.
I got two speakers in the car.
Those are some of the different species.
So does it maybe address it? How about the weather change, cold versus hot weather?
Which, the flies or the ants?
Either one.
They get in the ground and they go down deep where the temperature
So they can migrate as far north as they want to.
They have found them in Kansas. Yeah, it's a little scary. So here's the doot setup. We call them doot-doots. And Sanford has a little modification where he has chains hanging down, which is even more ingenious because then ants are really exposed because they crawl up and down the chain. Yep, and then the head pops off. Ah, good. And the pupa, its little noggin sticking out of the mouth hole.
So do the pupae just inside the head?
Yep.
So basically just eat the ant's brain?
Yep.
Brain.
The thing that's bizarre is that they're finding all sorts of neat things. There's a guy in the lab right now who's working on physiology, and he has found that not only does the egg only have genetic material and almost nothing else in it, but there's something in it that codes for the fire ant body to give up its fat deposit first so that it lives a little longer, and then slowly digests the least crucial thing one at a time.
The brain.
And then the brain is the last thing that goes up, and just friggin' amazing. This stuff is mind-blowing. Okay, so here's the guy, he's the reporter, and he says, you have to be strong. Oh, all right. So he says, ow, it hurts. This is what they did to me, and it didn't hurt at all, but it hurt him. So I think that's the end of it, pretty much. No, there's some more stuff, but
You can see it.
He's Catholic.
Mechanism of decapitation, like a necrosis, a desiccation, just to force the growth.
I think it's with the enzymes, all of the joints become loose. The ants just kind of fall apart, and the head comes off because it has to, in order for the body to close. Yeah, see, they're going up the chain, and I think on this, then they get a shot of the flies attacking